Good evening, everybody. And before I begin my remarks, I really would like to share with you that this is a very unique venue for me. I've been to other places where the rules were, no, hold your applause to the end, but I've never been in a venue where the rules are no gum and no dunking. So this is really quite a unique setting. I was at a few years ago. I was invited to another kind of strange place I spoke at was a hotel in Washington. I was invited to speak at the All Academy's Christmas ball there, and the podium was on a very wide bandstand, and the tables were off to the sides, and right in the middle was the dance floor. So while I was speaking, everybody was over there and over there, and I was like this and like that. Anyway, this is a very kind of different place. Can I just get a hand first for the Coast Guard Color Guard? And those wonderful young people who sang our anthems this evening. Well, good evening, and thank you all once again for your welcome. I especially want to thank Father Sinclair for inviting me here tonight. Father Sinclair and I go back a very long way. And I don't recall when we first met, but I do remember working together on the Merchant Marine Personnel Advisory Committee, on Seafarers training and medical issues, and also on the National Maritime Security Advisory Committee on port and vessel security issues and how they affect our seafarers. At that time, I was working for the International Organization of Masters, Mates, and Pilots. And the common theme through all that work that we did together was concern for seafarers and their families. Reasonable standards for their health and fitness for duty and fair treatment with respect to security and how security regulations are implemented. Compassion and fairness are so important to the quality of life for our seafarers, and it isn't really always there. So the work of folks like Father Sinclair is so important for that. I want to thank Vanessa for your for being such a great mistress of ceremony, and thank you for your introduction. I see some familiar faces here tonight. Steve Hale is over on the far right. There were a few others. Doreen Nadeau, I've known Doreen for many years. I can see you over there too. But you know what I notice is I don't really know a lot of you, which says to me that I really have to get out of Galveston more and come up to Port Arthur and Beaumont and get to know some of our friends that we have up here. I would also like to mention Brian Hill, who was over there, but I don't know where he's probably chasing two little ones in the back. Brian is with the Maritime Administration, and when I was the deputy, he had me in tow down here when I would come south as the Gateway Director for the Western Gulf. So I very much appreciate Brian being here and all he did for me while I was the deputy. And I'd also like to take a minute, if you would indulge me, to recognize my wife, Julie. I came down here to be superintendent for a whole year before Julie did all the work really to pack up the rest of the house and move down to Galveston. And her support for me throughout my career has been so critical. And I want to tell you tonight in front of all these people how much I appreciate it. When I was offered this position as superintendent of the Texas A&M Maritime Academy, I had a decision to make, and it was, do I leave my two boys and our life in Maryland to come all the way down here to Galveston and start a new career? So when the position was offered, I deliberated for a few days, and Julie and I sat down after a time, and we started to kind of weigh the pros and cons. And I finally said, well, I'd be working for a wonderful university, Texas A&M, and really getting into higher education. It's kind of a good point in my career to start doing this. And Julie just said, well, okay, no brainer, get on the road. And that's what happened. So as I often tell my two boys, if it wasn't for Miss Julie, we would live, but not well. So thanks, Julie, for your support and all your love. So tonight we are here, I understand, to kick off the Texas National Maritime Observance, and I'm so honored to be a part of it. Sinclair, how do we get this thing to catch on then? Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, Maritime TV, do we sell some t-shirts, or I certainly would do my part to make sure that this gets off the ground. Our theme is Treasures of the Sea, and I can tell you, I know what treasures Seafarer centers and programs like Camp Seaport can be. As a seafarer for 17 years, I spent a lot of time in Seafarer centers. They were places to find friendship and support, make a call, mail a letter, meet other seafarers, pick up some good books, and find your way around. The Seafarer Center was a base of operation and sometimes a home away from home. Port Arthur's International Seafarer Center has been a home away from home for 80 years for seafarers. I was looking at the website and some of your events caught my eye because I think everyone can agree that these things are important. So I saw that you have a monthly lunch, and frankly, I try never to miss lunch. So we both totally agree on that. And you have a cigar evening, and Sinclair is shaking his head. That goes on into the night. As I said, I saw that it starts at a particular hour, but it goes on till, right? So that sounds like great fun, and maybe I can make the next one. And then I saw that you have Shiny Ribs night. Now, a guy from Long Island, New York, we have some strange food too, but I've never heard of Shiny Ribs. But I'm willing to come up to Port Arthur and pick up a plate. So I'm looking forward to your next Shiny Ribs night. So thanks Sinclair and Doreen and all the folks, and so many of them are volunteers who make those kinds of things happen and work at our Seafarer centers. We're also here tonight to benefit Camp Seaport. And something that I didn't know until I walked in here and I saw the banner on the front of the table is that those words, science, technology, engineering, math, and the arts. And I was struck by the fact that you include arts in that. And I think that's so important. I kind of believe, in my view, in my mind, that over the past few years we've put so much emphasis on STEM, which is important. I don't disagree with that. But we kind of forget about the arts. And to me, the arts and the humanity are the seat of really what makes us, or the foundation of what makes us human. At Texas A&M, our core values are respect, excellence, loyalty, leadership, integrity, and selfless service. And it's the arts and humanities that really form the foundation of that. So I think it's important for us to have the arts in our instruction for our young people because it makes a wonderful framework for them to move through their lives and contribute. So I was reading and learning about Camp Seaport, that it's a community involvement program where young people can spend a week exploring careers and opportunities in the maritime industry while learning about the coastal environment. And I thought, boy, that really matches up with what we do at Texas A&M University of Galveston. So I would like, are those young folks still here? I'd like to give them a little bit of a shout out for being the folks who will one day take over for us in the maritime industry. They'll become our engineers. Yep. They'll become our engineers, our mates, our pilots, our shipbuilders, our technicians, and our architects. So thank you very much for being here and what you will do for us all. Yeah, and in terms of what you do at Sea Camp, I want to share with you an experience I had. Back in 2012, I taught for a short time at the Maritime Industries Academy High School in Baltimore. And I learned a good many things through that experience, but one of the things I did learn was that those kids had no idea that there was a port in the city of Baltimore. And I thought, what a shame is that, that they didn't know that this place with good jobs and connections to the world outside the city limits of Baltimore existed. So I really appreciate the kind of work that Camp Seaport does. Maybe if we had something like Camp Seaport in Baltimore, those young people would have had more of a direction, something to really aim for in their lives. I also saw that you're working to establish a scholarship program to send the children of Port Arthur to places like Lamar, San Jac, and to our campus down in Galveston, maybe even my academy. So I commend the work that Camp Seaport is doing, and I do know how important it can be. And I'm eager to learn more and to help support it in any way that I can. I am eager to help, but there are a few things I have to clear off my decks, like getting a suitable ship for my academy, Yet there's a few people who know the issue. Thank you. And right now, I might say a little bit more about this later, but right now we're sending 300 plus cadets, faculty, and staff up to Massachusetts, to Buzzards Bay, the Massachusetts Maritime Academy, to join the training ship Kennedy over Memorial Day weekend on Cape Cod. What was I thinking about the timing? I don't think I'm going to rest easy until all that happens. We're also here tonight to talk about how important the Southeast Texas maritime community is to our nation and the world. So on that topic, I think we could probably look at it in a couple of different ways. One way is we could talk about statistics, and I listed a few here. Houston leads the nation in exports. Texas is number 5 in the nation with 26,490 shipyard jobs. Galveston, this is something, I lived on the Strand when I first came down to Galveston, but Galveston is the 4th largest cruise port in North America and among the 10 largest in the world. I don't see how they do it, because I would walk out of my apartment on a Sunday, Saturday and Sunday with the cruise ships in there and all these happy faces, and there was never a traffic jam. I don't know how they did it, but it's certainly an accomplishment and a wonderful thing for the city of Galveston. And I also read that Port Arthur is the nation's premier breakbulk and bulk port. And here's one that I had to slip in. Texas A&M University at Galveston and its former students in Galveston County support $102.2 million in income and 1,342 jobs. So this maritime industry, our maritime community, does so many wonderful things for this region and all around the Gulf and all around the country. So give yourselves a hand. So we can talk about the numbers, and I saw some of them up there on the display. By the way, thanks so much to our sponsors as well, that I see flash up now and then. We could talk about those numbers, and they would all indicate how important our maritime industry is in our region, but I would much rather talk about our maritime community and its people. I've always felt that Maritime Day is about seafarers and people. Stats are okay, but people are always behind those statistics. When I first arrived in Galveston, I visited San Jacinto Junior College, Stephen F. Austin High School up in Houston, and I was so impressed with what they're doing there. I know we have more high schools in the area, and as I said, I need to get out and visit more of them, but people like Principal Steve Guerrero are doing great work, and I want to know more about how we can support them and work together. In fact, one of my staff, Tammy Lobaugh, I don't know if some of you know Tammy, is very active in the Lone Star Harbor Safety Committee Working Group on Education with folks from the Port of Houston and others from our maritime community. And Tammy also works with the Port of Houston Authority, Maritime Education, and Workforce Development Program with so many partners in that area. And it's all about people caring. It's all about people caring about education and opportunity. The opportunities that our industry holds for our young people. I knew about Sanjac because they came to visit me in Washington when I was the deputy administrator. And Sanjac is a world-class institution with innovative faculty and staff and some great facilities. And last year, they led a consortium of junior colleges and technical schools and got through Congress the Domestic Maritime Centers of Excellence Act of 2017. And I can tell you, as part of a consortium of state maritime academies, that legislation gave some of the state maritime academies a little bit of heartburn. But not me. I was all for it, and I'll tell you why. Because I know that places like Sanjac can do things that we at my maritime academy can't do, or we can't do as well. On the other hand, TAMA, my academy, does some things that Sanjac can't do. For example, I do have a ship. It's a very small one. But MARAD sends me a ship, and maybe one day I can work out with schools like Sanjac or high schools or some of the folks doing this kind of work in our region to share that ship and make that experience available at all levels of education. So something I have in my mind for the future. That Centers of Excellence legislation will be a major driver toward that effort. And like so many others, and I know Brian doesn't really have a lot to do with this, Brian Hill, but I'm eager to see the rules that the Maritime Administration puts out to implement that legislation, and they say they're coming out very shortly. Also with San Jacinto College, and in the meantime, I'm proud to say that we will be hosting the Shared Quarters National Maritime Workforce Conference, June the 5th through the 6th. Thanks to John Stauffer and his staff for doing all the great work that they are doing in organizing that. Day one of that conference will be at San Jac, and it'll feature a presentation by our friends in the Maritime Administration. We'll talk about military crosswalks, which is something I was involved in when I was at MARAD, and that's all about how skills that our soldiers and sailors learn in the military can translate to into the civilian world. And we'll also talk about how college aligns with the maritime industry, which is so important to our future and our success of our students. Day two will be at our place in Galveston, and we have on tap a discussion on training pipelines for port management and maritime administration, and something that's on everyone's mind, cybersecurity and maritime workforce technical training. And there's a whole lot more. I won't go into it all right now. To find out more about it, though, just Google Shared Quarters National Maritime Workforce Conference, and you'll find a whole lot more about it. So it's people who are doing it. We are making our maritime community here in Southeast Texas much, much stronger when we partner together and work together. There was so much more I want to get into with the maritime community, and there was so much more good work I want my academy to be a part of. For instance, Julie and I were privileged back in April to sail aboard the Alyssa, the sailing ship that we have in Galveston. I spoke to our captain, Mark. I was hoping I wouldn't do this, but Mark Skibinico, got it. Captain Mark. And Mark came up to me while I was enjoying the sail on Alyssa, and he wanted to talk about sail training for my cadets. And that is an idea that could work for so many others. My cadets and youth groups, other junior colleges, and young people from high school, and all the way down to grammar school. I'm sure we can come up with something that really teaches our young folks about our maritime heritage and our maritime world. So that's people. People that are doing some great work right here in Texas with some great potential. So I told you I need to clear the decks of a few things before I do those kinds of things. And tomorrow I will be traveling up to Massachusetts to see the start of the first totally Texas A&M Maritime Academy training cruise in more than 12 years. So we're going to use somebody else's ship, but we're all going to be out there together, and it's going to be our effort. And you may not believe it, but there are some people who don't believe that we can pull this off. There are some who don't believe that we can handle a cruise on our own. But I'm so proud to say that in Galveston, we called all hands on deck, and everybody is turned to. So Colonel Mike Fossum, our Chief Operating Officer, and our executive team have stood up to the plate, and just about every department in the university is involved and has a critical role to play. So someday we will have the right ship at our academy, and we won't need to fly everybody all around the country. And we will all be able to put our people on our ship in our port. So many folks have supported us, and just a few weeks ago, we had a great meeting in the Houston Pilots Building. A couple of folks were there that night. We actually didn't have room for everyone who wanted to be there, so I regretted that, but it was standing room only, and an indication of how much support there is for my academy, and I'm so very gratified that folks came out. So we also have an effort going on in Congress. So I want to thank Senators Cornyn, Senator Cruz, and all of our representatives from the Texas delegation who are getting involved in this. We'll see how things play out. So our friends, former students, our people will make it all happen. So I'm so very proud to be here tonight. Thank you so much for your warm welcome and all your support and all the work that you do. Thanks for the work that you do at the Seafarers Center and Camp Seaport and Gig'em.